On the planet Yautja Prime, a runt predator named Dek is on a training session. He uses a variety of tools to travel the land until he enters a cave where his scanner tells him that his brother is hiding nearby. Dek attacks behind him with his sword and Quay blocks it just in time. The brothers begin to fight and Quay keeps taunting Dek as they move, reminding him to use the cave to his advantage. Swords keep on clashing as they move all over the cave, and after exchanging enough blows, Quay manages to corner Dek but doesn't kill him. When Dek refuses to yield, Quay cuts the pillar they're standing on, and Dek falls into the abyss. He manages to save himself by holding onto the wall. He climbs back up and attacks Quay again. Later on their ship, Quay tells Dek it's time to choose a prey so he can earn his place in the Aya clan. Dek wants to go to Jenna, also known as the Death Planet, to hunt the unkillable monster, Kaisk. Even their father fears it, and that's why Dek wants to go after it. He's tired of his dad seeing him as a weakling. Quay doesn't approve. However, Dek makes his vow. At that moment, their father, Njor, returns, and Dek welcomes his honor with a sample of his blood. Njor wonders why Dek is alive, revealing he ordered Quay to kill him because he's too weak to be part of the clan. However, Quay thinks Dek deserves a chance to prove himself. An angry Njor throws a device that captures Dek and tells Quay to kill him now, but instead, Quay frees him and activates his laser to send him into the ship. Then, Quay activates his shield to protect his brother since Njor opens fire. After closing the ship to keep Dek from escaping, Quay starts fighting Njor, and in just a few moves, he manages to disarm him. Njor activates his camouflage cloak, but Quay keeps punching. Soon Njor stabs his hand before chopping his arm off. Then Njor strikes his son down and Quay starts crawling away, reaching for his arm rather than his sword. Njor calls him weak and stabs him. So Quay uses his last breath to activate the ship so his brother can go to Jenna. Dek watches Njor as the ship's launch knocks him out. Sometime later, Dek is awakened by an alarm. The ship has been damaged by the debris in orbit and is hurling towards Jenna. Dek rushes to the seat and ejects it, so it starts falling at great speed through the Jenna sky. When a bird almost crashes into him, he activates the shield. He ends up crashing in the jungle and he roars in frustration. Determined to find the monster, Dek takes stock of his weapons to confirm everything is working well. He's startled by a noise nearby and starts searching the area. Suddenly, a vine-like creature takes him by surprise and steals one of his weapons. Dek gets his sword ready, but a second vine grabs his arm, and he has to cut this one while the first one escapes. More vines appear and reach for him until they grab his leg. Dek manages to take his bow to shoot his captor to force it to drop him and punches the vine to keep it back. Then, Dek runs to retrieve his sword and quickly slashes the vines that keep attacking him. No matter how many he cuts down, though, more and more keep coming and they even start attacking together. Dek quickly dodges a few blows and jumps on top of a vine to run on it, which helps him get to the top of a cliff. The vines can't reach him up there, and now Dek has a good view of the planet, which looks terrifying. Afterward, Dek washes his wound in the river and uses his scanner to find a medicinal plant that can serve as a bomb. On a leaf, he finds a worm that starts growing red spheres, and when he throws it away, it explodes. Then, he goes out to explore and search for the Kaisk. On a big field, he finds some strange red plants that keep hissing at him. So, he moves carefully to avoid them. At that moment, Dek hears a voice talking in a strange language and looks up to see Thaya trapped in a huge nest. Realizing he can't understand her, Thaya changes to the universal translator, which confirms she's an android known as a synthetic. Suddenly, a Jenna vulture appears nearby and grabs a rock to throw at the strange plants. This makes the pods explode with red smoke and shoot their needles, which Dek quickly dodges. Thaya explains that the needles can paralyze him so that the vulture can eat him. When Thaya offers her help, Dek says that the Yautja hunt alone. The vulture throws more rocks and multiple plants are activated, so Dek is hit by the needles. As he starts feeling dizzy, Thaya asks for a weapon, so he tosses one of his blades at her before collapsing. The vulture flies down and is about to eat him when Thaya tackles the beast and brutally kills it with the blade. Dek sees her wave before passing out. Minutes later, Dek wakes up because Thaya has given him an antidote made from the same flower. Dek stands up and helps Thaya do the same, only to notice that she's missing half her body. She explains she's a synthetic by the Wayland Yutani Corporation because humans can't live on this planet, but Dek doesn't care and drops her. Thaya then points out that many Yautja have come for the Kaisk and none of them survived. If he takes her with him, she'll guide him to the Call's den. That way, she gets her legs and he gets his trophy. Dek realizes that it was the Kaisk who destroyed her, but he's still not interested. However, when Thaya calls herself a useful tool, Dek doesn't see it as breaking the code anymore and agrees to bring her along. While they travel, Thaya never shuts up and keeps asking questions. At the river, some peculiar worms begin shooting acid at them. So, Dek carries Thaya on his back to run faster. Unfortunately, he finds the way blocked and Thaya uses the chance to teach him a lesson. She throws a sticky fruit on the ground and the creatures rush to eat it. Once they leave the river, Dek cuts down a bunch of vines and ties Thaya to his back to move more easily. In the evening, they stop to camp for the night and Dek uses his device for light. Thaya shares that her crew arrived on Jenna 2 years ago and she was trapped in the vulture's nest for almost 2 weeks. She had hoped that another synthetic named Tessa would come for her and tells Dek that they have a higher sensitivity than other models. Dek sees sensitivity as a weakness, but Thaya thinks it's an advantage to understand other creatures. Thaya used to be stuck in the lab, but one day Tessa brought her out to explore. Unfortunately, that was also the day that the Kaisk attacked them. Meanwhile, at the crew's new base, it's revealed that Tessa looks just like Thaya. She received severe damage during the Kaisk attack. So, now she's in a pod being repaired, so the computer reminds her that her priority is to catch the Kaisk. The computer also detects the presence of a Yutuja and classifies him as a threat. When Tessa finally wakes up, she's told that Thaya was captured by the Yutuja. In the morning, Dek goes out to hunt for food. He comes across a bone bison, which is usually callous food. Dek tries to move ahead, but has to move back when he discovers that this field is covered in razor grass. When Dek's about to throw his blade, a small creature jumps from a tree and lands next to the duo. Thaya can't identify it, and Dek roars at it, but the little guy just roars back. Then the creature starts chasing after the bison without issues because its hard skin isn't hurt by the razor grass. Furious about having competition, Dek starts jumping from tree to follow the bison. When the bison runs near them, Dek jumps on it and stabs it. The bison throws them off by using another tree. The small creature rolls ahead of them and a frustrated Dek tackles it to start a fight, which means Thaya often gets smushed. The little guy has surprising strength, but after some struggle, Dek manages to grab it by its neck. At that moment, the bison comes running toward them. So, Dek throws his sword and holds the bison's mouth open as the blade proceeds to cut it in half. Dek roars to celebrate a successful hunt, only for a tentacle to suddenly grab his leg and lift him. The duo has been captured by a Luna bug whose tight tentacle tongue is stopping Dek from activating his devices. When they're about to be eaten, the little creature jumps into the Luna bug's mouth and blocks its teeth with its hard skin, breaking them. The Luna bug is in so much pain that it spits them out and leaves by walking on the razor grass. Desperate for revenge, Dek cuts down a tree to use it as a bridge. The little creature is rolling down the field already, and the Luna bug captures it with its tongue, but at that moment, Dek lands on its head. He stabs the monster with his sword and makes a large cut that finally kills it. Meanwhile, Tessa and her crew of synthetics are searching for Thaya. They find Dek's pod before they're attacked by the vines. The crew quickly opens fire to slow them down. Then, they activate their flamethrowers to burn all the vines down. In the evening, Dek and Thaya make camp again. The little creature is still following them and copying every move of Dek's because it's impressed by how he hunted the bison. Thaya names it Bud while Dek shares the roasted meat. Thaya asks Dek about his family, so he tells him what happened with his brother and father, but he refuses to accept he's grieving when Thaya uses that word. He points out that Tessa counts as her sister, and Thaya likes the concept. In the middle of the night, Tessa and her crew find Dek's ship, which crashed after he jumped out. There are many Yautja weapons that Tessa finds interesting, including a grenade that freezes her hand. The next morning, Dek grabs Thaya and leaves without Bud, insisting that he hunts alone, and Thaya doesn't count because she's a tool. Thaya tells him about wolves and how they hunt in packs, but the alpha isn't the one who hunts the most, it's the one who protects the pack. Dek misses the point and says he'll be the alpha who kills the most. After finding a Kalfong near the river, the duo continues traveling in that direction and reaches Thaya's base, which has been completely destroyed by the beast. Among dozens of synthetic bodies, Thaya finds her legs. Thankfully, the repair machine still works and she can use it to reconnect both halves of her body, although the process will take a while. She thanks Dek for his help, but also apologizes and tells him to leave because she's activated the beacon to call her crew. Thaya explains her team is also after the Kaisk, so she can't let him kill it. Dek refuses to leave, saying he'd rather go down with honor than run like a coward. In the middle of the wreckage, there's some spilled oil, so Dek sets it on fire to create a smoke cloud. The Kaisk soon appears and throws Dek down, damaging his sword. Dek uses a piece of metal as a shield and slides under the Kaisk to slice its belly. Then he throws his small blade at its head and cuts its tail. The tail quickly regrows and the wounds close because the Kaisk has regenerative powers. The monster captures Dek and throws it against the repair machine, which causes Thaya's legs to fall off the table. When it grabs him again, Dek cuts its tongue to free himself. At that moment, she sees a gun on the ground and opens fire at the call to distract it. Dek uses the chance to throw a chain at the Kaisk mouth and activates a machine that starts rolling up the chain, which drags the beast back. Dek takes Thaya's gun and starts shooting. When the monster attacks him with its tail, Dek dodges it and closes a storage unit door to trap it. He can run up the Kaisk body and make a big jump above its head to successfully decapitate it. Sadly, this is still not enough to kill it, and the head quickly reattaches itself to the body. The Kaisk holds Dek down with its hug paw and sniffs it. The smell it finds prevents it from attacking. The moment is interrupted when Tessa throws a grenade to freeze both Dek and the Kaisk so she can capture them. Sometime later, Dek wakes up strapped to a table in the cruise vehicle. Thaya is in suspension mode because she's connected to the repair machine, and Tessa has read all her logs. She doesn't understand why Dek's alive since the Yautja usually kill weak children and says that belonging to her company should be an honor for him. Then Tessa wakes up Thaya and congratulates her for getting 2 specimens. She gives Dek a painful injection to experiment on him. So Thaya tries to smoothly save him by pointing out he's a rut and therefore not ideal for science. She thinks they should keep his weapons and let Dek go. Tessa still wants a sample, so she connects 2 cables to his head that cause him lots of pain. A desperate Thaya turns off the machine and tells Tessa they should be more than robots that only follow orders. In fact, she wants them to be sisters. However, Tessa reveals she didn't come back to rescue Thaya. She came for the Kaisk. She agrees with Yautja tradition of getting rid of the weak and calls Thaya broken. At that moment, Tessa gets a call from Earth. So, she leaves to take it after ordering a guard to box Thaya up. Since the guy can't speak Yautja, Dek asks Thaya to make him open one of his devices. Thaya tells the guard that Dek's device is a map, and when he opens it, his head explodes. Then, Thaya frees Dek. An alarm is triggered, so more guards come to open fire at him. Thaya opens the back door, and Dek jumps into a waterfall to escape. Sometime later, Dek finds his crashed ship and takes care of his wounds. However, there are no weapons left. He considers leaving the planet, but he looks at his brother's helmet and remembers that the best wolf is the one who protects the pack. Dek returns to the jungle and starts gathering natural dangers to use as weapons, like blades of razor glass and the spikes from the red flowers. He also gets the acid worm by using the fruit. While working, he comes across Bud and smells its spit. He finally realizes that Bud is the Kaisk child and he was spared for smelling like it, so Dek covers Bud with his own spit instead. Lastly, he frees Thaya's legs so he can follow them to their owner. At the new base, Dek appears wearing the bison bones as armor and throws acid at a guard to bring him down. The legs follow a signal from Thaya, who is in suspension inside a box. When 2 guards try to attack the legs, Dek quickly defeats them with a whip, but also helps by destroying a guard in seconds. The duo keeps sneaking around the base, bringing down any guard in the way so the legs can keep moving without interruptions. Meanwhile, Tessa is talking to the company and reports they'll go back soon with the Kaisk. When asked about Dek, she tells them that he's dead. With his collection of natural weapons, Dek keeps destroying synthetic guards, sometimes fighting a few of them at the same time. Inside a lab, a guard manages to corner him, so Dek breaks a glass cage and lets a vine sample kill him instead. When the legs find the box, they jump on a guard's neck and quickly kill him before opening the container. Thaya awakes and celebrates, but she hears guards coming, so she pretends to be asleep again. The legs kick a guard to make him fall, and Thaya jumps out to fight him while the legs confront the second guy. Both body halves help each other in battle. Soon, Dek finds the box, but it's empty. A guard surprises him from behind, only for Thaya to kill him with a shot, and she's surprised to see Dek, who admits he came back for her like a proud wolf. Thaya wants to leave, but Dek announces they must free the Kaisk so Bud can be with its mother. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, and Tessa tells her men to speed up the launch of the ship with the Kaisk. While she investigates, a team of soldiers finds Dek, who activates the combustible worms to create a nice explosion that destroys all the synthetics in one go. Then, Tessa appears inside a battling suit and shoots Dek with a laser she stole from his ship, which kills his acid worm. She uses the suit to bring down structures and pulls out a huge saw, but Dek dodges it all. In the main ship, Thaya tries to access the Kaisk, but the cage is locked. When a guard comes by, she fails to impersonate Tessa, so she smashes the guy's head on the cage instead. When an attack throws Dek into the lab, the suit hand comes down and is captured by the moving vine. Dek tries to climb it, but Tessa immediately throws him off, so he hides behind a container. Tessa lifts it, but doesn't see him. It turns out he's climbed on the container to be above her. Now Dek can jump on Tessa to beat her up, but she quickly closes the cockpit. Suddenly, the Kaisk appears and jumps on the suit, so Tessa activates the saw to stab it and lift it. While she's distracted, Dek climbs to the back of the suit and starts ripping cables off to slow it down. Tessa throws a grenade at the Kaisk, but Dek hits it with a metal rod and makes it land on the suit's arm, so the ice makes it drop the Kaisk. The beast removes the saw from its body and attacks the suit, splitting it in two. When the upper half lands, the Kaisk devours Tessa and roars in victory. The others reunite with Dek, and they watch the Kaisk check on its kid. They share a sweet moment and Dek is inspired to show his respect for the Kaisk too by bumping foreheads. Suddenly, the Kaisk explodes from an ice grenade activated by Tessa, who has been alive inside the beast's stomach. She emerges from the rubble and tries to attack Thaya, only for Dek to stab her from behind, finally killing her. He takes back his device, and Bud rips off her head. Sometime later, Dek returns to Yautja and presents Tessa's head to his father. Njor still thinks he's a disgrace and sends out 2 guards to kill him, but Dek moves fast and easily kills them first. Then Dek fights Njor, who hides with his camouflage cloak. Dek activates the ship's engine to create a sandstorm that allows him to see his father's location and cuts his arm off to stop him. Then he captures him with a cage device. When Dek symbolically stabs his dad's helmet, Njor takes it off and says that he can join the clan if he shields. However, Dek says he already has a clan before a grown-up Bud eats Njor's head. Thaya congratulates him while Dek takes his father's cloak. At that moment, another ship appears and Dek says it's his mother. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.